Hello and welcome to class number 3 of this Decoding PSIR through answer writing series. The purpose here is simple, to make sure that we simplify PSIR optional subject for all of you. If you want PDF of these lectures, you can join the Telegram group. The link is in the description of this video. We'll be uploading all the PDFs over there. What do we do in this series? You will find a lecture every Monday, Wednesday and Fridays here. We take a previous year question. Not just answer that, but first go deep into the topic of the question, try and see what do you have to write, and then try and form an answer so that you have an idea of how to go ahead. The reason why this is significant is a lot of theory-based questions in subjects such as PSIR get repeated over the years. So if you go through a lot of previous year topics, the important ones, you have a probability of seeing them once again. Today again, we have taken up a topic which has been asked almost every second, third year by the UPSC. Go through the previous year papers of UPSC and you will find this topic of post-behavioral approach very commonly asked by the UPSC. This was asked in 2016, 10-mark question, 150 words was the word limit. It was first question part B. The question is comment on the post-behavioral approach. Now what exactly is this? Post-behavioral approach is one of the, as I said, most commonly asked topics by the UPSC, and it's not that difficult to answer. The simple idea here is, if you look at how political science as a subject has evolved, there are different ways in which people have studied political science. I'll give you a simple example to begin with. When you study political science, there are two words that are important. First, are you reading fact-based subject or are you focusing on value? This fact versus value debate is a very old debate. Let's take a very simple example. Let's assume that I am the Prime Minister, not the Prime Minister, let's assume I am a big leader. I don't want to become the Prime Minister. And my objective is that I want to achieve 92% voting percentage. I want at least 92% people to come and vote. I can measure that. If more than 92% people come, I have achieved my objective. If less than that come out to vote, I have not achieved my objective. That study is fact-based. So fact-based study is something that you can measure. For example, if I say my country is becoming better, my country is growing, you can't just say these generic words. You have to define that. So my country is growing because the GDP growth rate is, let's say, 8%. That is a way that you measure it. That is a fact-based approach where you read everything and understand everything on the basis of fact, numbers that can actually be measured. Then there is another approach. Second approach is based on values. Values are something that cannot be measured. For example, justice, equality. If I say our society has equality, now how do you measure it? There is no way of measuring that today's society has more equality than 100 years ago. You can say this, you can feel this, but you cannot measure this. Justice. When you say justice should prevail in the society, what do you mean by justice should prevail? There is no particular definition or there is no way of measuring it, right? You can't measure how justice is. You can't really measure if we have achieved 100% of it, we have achieved 50%. There is no way to measure this. Because whatever the court decides is justice. You can't say injustice was done. So political science approaches in the past have been divided between the two. Should we go on a fact-based approach? Should we go on a value-based approach? So first understand this idea. Fact or value, fact or value. Post-behavioral approach is an approach that said that we need both. That we need to focus on both facts and values. Only when we focus on both facts and values would we be able to understand a political system properly. So that's the first thing that you have to understand. Post-behavioral approach ends the dichotomy between fact and values by underlining the fact that both are equally important rather than opting for one and ditching the other. Now let's go ahead and read a bit more about post-behavioral. To understand post-behavioral approach, let's take a step back and first understand behavioral approach. Just as the name suggests, behavioral approach is exactly what the name is. It's no hidden meaning. Behavioral approach, the word comes from behavior, right? So the idea is, after Second World War, when political scientists around the world were looking towards how different countries react. For example, let's take a simple example. Let's say when people were trying to understand why Germany did what it did. Why Germany started the First World War or the Second World War. Why is it that the Germans were so hell-bent on killing so many people in the Second World War? The idea to that, or the answer to that, as per behavioral thinkers, lies in understanding the behavior of the people who are in charge. In simple terms, in order to understand how a political system works, you have to look at the people in the political system. It can be the leader of the country, it can be the voters, it can be the judges. Look at their individual behavior. Study how they behave in different situations. And that is how a political system behaves. This is called behavioral approach in simple terms. Behavioral approach is a fact-based approach. Rather than focusing on values, it wants to focus on facts. It wants to see if a particular leader gave a certain decision that led to increase in voting percentage, that led to increase in, let's say, military budget or whatever. They study that behavior of the person in charge. Now, not just study the behavior of the leader, also study the behavior of the voter, the revolutionaries, the party members, opinion leaders, etc. So focus on individual behavior, because any society is made up of those individuals, and the way they behave will determine how the entire political system will end up. That is a behavioral approach, fact-based. Now, till 1960s, the behavioral approach was running well. But by 1960s, it was believed that maybe focusing too much on the facts means that we are losing the bigger picture. The end goal is to make a society that is more equal, society that is more just, society that is more liberal. In order to achieve those values, you cannot just keep on focusing on facts. So a reaction to the behavioral approach was the post-behavioral approach. It is seen as a reaction to the behavioral approach because there was too much focus on facts. Post-behavioral approach started in 1960s by David Easton, the same person who was behind the systems approach. He announced a post-behavioral revolution to shift focus from strict method and focus more on what the public requires. He said that political science and political scientists should not just focus on writing books. If you are a true political scientist, you have to work for the betterment of the society. If you are a true political scientist, you should be in a position where you can advise the ruler that do this so your society will become better. Do this in your political system and it will bring you better results. As a political scientist, it is important for you to understand the aspirations of the people and to make society a better place, not just read about facts and then write books about it. So David Easton said that political scientists should play a better role in the society, and for that we cannot just focus on facts, we have to focus on facts and values both. This became the foundation of the post-behavioral approach. Focusing too much on the facts would mean that we are moving away from our objective. This table is also important for you to understand the difference between behavioral and post-behavioral approach. Please understand, post-behavioral approach is not the opposite of behavioral approach. Please understand this. It is not saying that behavioral approach was bad, let's remove it. No. It is just making slight changes in the behavioral approach. while the behavioral approach was only focusing on facts, post-behavioral approach focuses on facts as well as values. Behavioral approach does not want to change anything in the society. They are interested in status quo, no social change. Post-behavioral approach means that they want to solve the problems in the society. They want to propagate the idea that political science is meant to solve the problems that exist in the society and not just study about the problems. This is the basic difference between the two. Trust me, post-behavioral approach is one of the most commonly asked questions by UPSC. It's usually a 10-mark question and you can easily answer by reading all of this. Post-behavioral approach talked about a couple of things. Relevance, that political science must stay relevant. Only focusing on facts will make political science irrelevant. If we have to solve the society's problems, we have to stay relevant and focus on action. Means not just study but also try and resolve the problems. These are the two keywords in post-behavioral approach, that political science must stay relevant as an art or as a science where people should take it up in larger numbers. Secondly, it should suggest actions to bring changes in the society. This is everything you needed to know about post-behavioral approach. Now you're ready to write this answer without any issue. Again, it's a question that is a 10-marker. Comment on this topic, so it has to be a mini essay kind of a thing. So this is how we will write. Question was again, comment on the post-behavioral approach. So we'll start with how this is a recent phenomena, and it emerged out of David Easton when he gave a lecture called The Credo of Relevance, where he talked about the fact that political science is losing its relevance. Why? Because there is too much focus on behavioralism and people are getting dissatisfied with it. So he gave this theory. He suggested that we should not just give our theories on paper, we should give theories that can lead to action. Now understand one thing here. I've told this earlier also. In optional subjects, any optional subject, PSIR included, when you write an answer, as an examiner, when I'm checking the answer, I want to see keywords related to the question written in the answer. So if I am checking an answer on post-behavioralism, I want keywords here, keywords such as action, relevance, because these are keywords related to this topic. If you don't include these keywords, action, relevance, then I would not really give you good marks. Because I would think that you're just writing theoretically, you don't even understand the topic. Only when you write about how it will lead to action, how the subject has to be relevant, how credo of relevance is important here, only when you write these keywords, only then I will be inclined to give you better marks. And I have told this multiple times, optional is by far the most scoring subject. An optional subject carries 500 marks. Imagine the amount of time you spend on history. And then understand history plus geography, Indian society, art and culture, all of them combined make GS1. All of them combined are 250 marks only. History, geography, society, art and culture, all of them combined will make up 250 only. And political science alone will make up 500 marks. So imagine the importance of the subject. So again, you have to focus on including these keywords in your answer to fetch better marks. Then we'll talk about the fact-value dichotomy. Values are not rejected but welcome in the post-behavioral approach because they think that it is political science is applied science and not just pure science. Pure science focuses only on facts. So people who think political science is only science, they focus on facts and not values. Applied science will focus on values as well. This is how you have to write about post-behavioral approach. It kept political science relevant. Again, we have included the word relevance here. It has kept the discipline relevant and has stopped its decline in the world. So that is how you will write this answer. Again, the objective of this series, as you know, is simple: to decode and ensure that we understand the topic first and then write the answer. In order to get the PDF of this lecture, join the Telegram channel. Link is in the description of the video. If you have missed any of the earlier classes, I'm giving the link of the entire playlist in this description. Click on that, watch the earlier classes. Also, I'll see you in the next class. Again, classes for this series are on Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 4 p.m. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.